Hey guys, for the most part today's story is rather family friendly, however there are some scenes that deal with incest and sexual assault, so if those things trigger you, you have my permission to go watch a cat video.
Now stop me if you heard this one before. The 1960s were a really turbulent time in American history.
Yes, whether it was marching for civil rights, protesting the military action in Vietnam, or just coming to the shocking realization that my mother the car was a thing, the 1960s were a time of great and important change. It was truly an era of activism. As the world transitioned into the 1970s, things may have died down a little, but it would never really go away. Just look at the second wave feminist movement, for example. One major topic that came to the forefront was the voting age, which was 21 at the time. In March of 1972, Congress proposed amending the Constitution for the 26th time to mandate the legal voting age at 18 years old. Many young Americans felt that if 18 was old enough to get drafted and fight in Vietnam, then it should be old enough to vote. Many individuals spoke before Congress on this, including a young Jerry Springer.
Yeah, that Jerry Springer.
The amendment was ratified by July of 1971 and a major win for the American youth movement. It made people wonder what other age restrictions would soon be lowered. In fact, the only real change to any age restrictions is that the drinking age got changed to 21 from 18.
Naturally, comics jumped on the counterculture bandwagon as well. Mostly it was Marvel, with heroes like Spider-Man, who took on a conservative media establishment, the Incredible Hulk, who took on the military-industrial complex. Heck, even Captain America would renounce his heroic identity when he discovered a horrifying truth about Richard Nixon. No, not the one you're thinking about.
As for DC Comics, well, they tried, most notably drafting Captain America co-creator Joe Simon to work on a title called Brother Power the Geek. The Geek was a tailor's mannequin who came to life when struck by lightning while wearing hippie threads. It was about as successful as something called Brother Power the Geek could possibly be.
Still, the passing of the 26th Amendment gave DC the idea to enlist Simon's help once more, this time on a book where 18-year-olds were suddenly allowed to hold federal office. Given the fact that these are the same people who thought Brother Power the Geek was a good idea, your hopes really shouldn't be too high. Today we're covering the wacky misadventures of Prez, the first teen president.
The town of Steadfast, Maine is the clock capital of the world. There's just one tiny problem. None of the clocks there actually run on time, some being separated by as much as 30 minutes. To that end, chimes echo endlessly throughout the town on a regular basis. High schooler Prez Rickard has joined his fellow classmates in celebrating the passing of the 26th Amendment when they actually have time to wake up. To that end, Prez sets about fixing all of Steadfast clocks, ensuring that everyone will be able to vote on time. Meanwhile, in nearby Central City, the locals have been protesting local government, which is under the thumb of corrupt industrialist Boss Smiley.
Yeah, Boss Smiley has a literal smiley face.
Smiley is on edge now that there's an amendment lowering the required age to hold federal office on the floor of Congress. Any younger politicians or protesters are now a threat to him. To that end, he needs a youngster that he can mold into being a mouthpiece for him, believing that the youth will just follow anyone who's young like them. When he hears of Prez repairing Steadfast's clock, he thinks he's found the perfect kid. Smiley pays a visit to the Rickard home and convinces Prez to run for Senate should the new amendment pass. It seemingly works, as Prez's peers don't bat an eye when he endorses Smiley's controversial highway project. Prez even participates in the destruction of a nearby dam to make way for the road. It's then that the construction crew is attacked by an indigenous American named Eagle Free and his animal army.
I would like to apologize to any original American viewers for perpetuating the stereotype that you are all spiritually in tune with the spirits of earth and nature with the ability to talk to animals and the like. Also, I have no idea how it is that Eagle Free managed to enlist the aid of an elephant, a gorilla, and a tiger to be in his crew, seeing as none of those species are native to the North American continent.
Prez manages to track Eagle Free down to a cave to take him on in hand-to-hand combat. However, the bear and gorilla tackle Prez and calm him down enough for Eagle Free to explain and demonstrate the amount of environmental damage that Smiley's highway project is causing. Eagle Free then begins schooling Prez in the way of nature in order to take Smiley down.
Again, sorry.
Prez and Eagle-Free break into Smiley's office and manage to get their hands on some documents to incriminate Smiley. Smiley catches them in the act, though, and Prez promises to fight him as much as possible, even if he gets another puppet. However, that's not going to matter too much, as that is the point when the clocks in Steadfast begin to chime at midnight, meaning it's now Election Day.
Because apparently elections now start at midnight?
Soon, Prez Record is elected to the Senate amongst a young wave that sweeps its way into Congress. But it doesn't end there, as soon the age requirement for the presidency is lowered, and Prez gets elected president in 1976. He names Eagle-Free head of the FBI, and his vice president is some old woman named Martha.
Seriously, they build Prez's vice president up to be some big surprise, and it's just some woman named Martha. And no, not even in a this is Superman or Batman's mother type way, just Martha.
Prez immediately goes to work and partakes on a tour to bring world peace. It's achieved because he says so. When he returns, he gets to award a medal to the Olympic chess champion.
Yeah, just forget the fact that chess can never qualify as an Olympic sport because the Olympic Charter expressly forbids cerebral or electronically enhanced events. Coincidentally, this is also why esports will never be an Olympic event either.
The chess champion, aka Robbie the Chess King, is taking on the best players from the USSR. The Soviets have long claimed that the Chess King has used electronic manipulation to win battles and want to challenge him. However, in reality, it's the Russians' chess queen who's electronically manipulating the match, or should I say, chess slurp. The Chess King is thrown for a loop and blown off the board. He begins attacking his own pieces and gets hauled off. Meanwhile, the Capitol building is soon under attack by exploding robotic chess pieces.
Glad to see Capitol security hasn't improved at all in the last 45 years.
The attacks begin occurring all over D.C., and many believe the Chess King is to blame. Congress takes Prez to task over the lack of an arrest and begin introducing articles of impeachment. Thankfully, a message comes in from Eagle-Free, and Prez goes to meet him on his teepee on the Potomac.
Again, sorry.
Eagle-Free has managed to track down the robot's control signal to the Russian embassy. The two fight their way through the chess guards and enter the building to find Robbie a hostage of the chess queen. She pulls a gun on him but is soon subdued by Eagle-Free's animal friends and brought to justice.
Also, Prez put his face on the $1 bill for some reason.
Unfortunately, the piece is short-lived as an older senator is confronting Prez over a gun control bill, and then a sniper shot suddenly comes through the window. Thankfully, Prez only suffers a flesh wound, and his gun bill is ironically tabled. Intelligence reports point to a militia group led by Gregor Washington, a descendant of George Washington. Feeling that a teenager isn't suited to the job of president, Gregor feels that another revolution is needed. The man is such a devotee of his ancestor that he's gone so far as to have wooden teeth placed in his mouth.
Apparently, he wasn't devoted enough to know that the whole wooden teeth thing is just a myth. Washington's actual dentures consisted mainly of ivory and whalebone.
Once more, Capitol security must be called into question as Gregor Washington launches an all-out attack on the building. Of course, they're completely outmatched by the U.S. military, so Prez elects to challenge Washington to one-on-one combat. Washington accepts, but only if he's allowed to choose a second, namely a hulking brute known as Sergeant Hood.
We now bring you exclusive footage of that fight.
More work to be done. Feel the silence your shame. Bane wins.
Just when it looks like Hood is about to finish the job, Prez manages to floor the brute with a thunderous bolo punch. Eagle Free manages to calm Prez down to prevent Hood from being beaten to death. Washington doesn't yield, though, and continues his attack until Hood revives and knocks the general off his horse, literally. It turns out that Hood was an undercover FBI agent. Washington is taken into custody, and Prez elects to drop his gun control bills, citing that the bullets cannot always be met with flowers. It does gain him favor with his establishment, however, the youth movement that has elected him is now put off and calling him corrupt. From there, Prez moves on to international concerns as he aids the Eastern Bloc country of Moravia construct a series of irrigational canals and help them recover from a drought. Prez is given the traditional gift of a garlic necklace and takes off, noticing a bizarre collection of clouds covering a land as he flies away. He then returns to Washington, D.C. to play table tennis with the Chinese ambassador. That night, Eagle Free spots what appears to be a large bat flying towards the White House. It turns out to be a helicopter piloted by a werewolf delegate from Transylvania. The sun rises as the wolf reverts to human form, where he explains the situation. Transylvania shares a border with Moravia, and the canals have transferred the drought into its borders as well. This has been done unfairly because Transylvania was not allowed to the negotiation table with Moravia, and now they have declared war on the United States.
And that ruler is none other than Dracula.
The delegate exits, leaving behind a coffin-shaped briefcase. This returns to normal as Prez reluctantly prepares to attack Transylvania. However, as night falls, Eagle Free realizes that the coffin-shaped briefcase was in fact a coffin, and inside was none other than Dracula. Eagle Free charges into the president's bedroom to stop the vampire from chomping down on Prez's neck. The Count is so strong that he survived numerous attacks, even the loss of his own legs. He's been staked 7 times and managed to survive.
Of course, everyone knows taking a vampire through the heart is just merely a means to hold them in the coffin so you can decapitate them. That's the real way you kill them.
Dracula attempts another attack, only to be haunted when Eagle Free pulls out a Hindu manji?
I guess Eagle Free now thinks he's the other kind of Indian, apparently?
Even though he's limbless, Dracula is still very strong and manages to escape. He makes it back to his Batcopter and takes off. Prez and Eagle Free take off in pursuit, where they are forced to sacrifice a large flock of birds by crashing it into the chopper. Unfortunately, this has really decreased Prez's popularity, as no one believes he went to war with Dracula, and others are upset that he went to war at all.
So Prez was actually cancelled after this issue. There was another one that was completed but was never officially released. Many have chalked this up to the infamous DC implosion, where a massive snowstorm knocked out DC's printing and distribution channels. But that's not really the case, as this was cancelled well before that took place. Probably the main reason why people think it's part of the DC implosion is the fact that this issue was eventually released as part of an anthology called Cancelled Comics Cavalcade, alongside other victims of the DC implosion. That's, again, where I believe this took place. That's why also the issue we're going to look at is in black and white.
The White House is entertaining a foreign dignitary. Unfortunately, the formal dinner is interrupted by a vermin infestation. It's actually been a problem for a few weeks, mainly because Prez is anti-pesticide. Also, the 2 initial pest control experts hired were too busy planting bugs of a different kind in the Oval Office. In an effort to find a humane way to kill the unwelcome, Prez decides to enlist the help of an individual named Clyde Piper. Piper has developed a hypersonic frequency that allows him to draw vermin away while playing a flute. Piper does his task and leads every rodent, bug, and mite out of the White House and even out of Washington, D.C. However, problems soon arises in the form of the $5 million bill that Piper is charging for the exercise. For once, Prez and Congress agree that is just too much and they won't pay. Clyde Piper swears vengeance and soon begins playing his flute, leading all of the children out of Washington, D.C. and into the Virginia hills.
If only there was some type of old parable where events like this played out in a similar scenario. I mean, then you would have learned what it's like to not pay the piper.
Realizing the gravity of the situation, the 2 custodial spies reveal themselves, along with the fact that they've managed to tap into the frequency the Piper uses in his flute. They locate the runaway group as Piper prepares to lead the children into a lake. Prez manages to break Clyde Piper's hold on the kids, and the Piper just winds up drowning himself.
Well, that was dark, wasn't it? Anyway, Prez would make one more appearance in the pages of Supergirl, meaning that all of his adventures have actually been taking place in the mainstream DC universe. Which is strange because the first issue clearly stated that this was an imaginary story out of continuity.
Linda Danvers sits down with her college friends to watch as Prez holds a fundraiser at a supermarket. The president promises to keep food prices low before shaking some hands. However, Linda manages to spot something in the crowd and takes off to change into Supergirl. Supergirl manages to interrupt the handshake, revealing the man to be an assassin who was concealing a gun in his sleeve. Afterwards, Prez thanks Supergirl as he repairs a watch given to him by the son of a fallen soldier. He earns more of Supergirl's admiration as he repairs the watch with relative ease and pleases the child. Prez prepares to leave until he notices an antique clock auction being held. He finds a clock that catches his fancy, only for Supergirl to snatch it away at the last second, as it turns out someone set them up the bomb. Supergirl then offers to fly Prez to his next engagement. However, the assassins are watching from afar and they have initiated a new plan.
I have no idea who these people are, only that one of them is a witch.
The witch begins using her magic to power a hypno-laser that begins compelling Supergirl to drop Prez from a lethal height. She tries her best to fight it, but gives in as the two fly over the Brooklyn Bridge. Supergirl flies off, tracking down the signal and locating the villain's headquarters. She melts the mind control device, and the Secret Service soon arrives to take the villains away. It's revealed that Supergirl actually dropped a dummy of Prez instead of the real one.
Prez would not make another comic book appearance until 1993, when Neil Gaiman dedicated the entire 52nd issue of Sandman to him. Now, I've technically already covered that issue in episode 100 of the show, where I looked over all of Neil Gaiman's Sandman runs, so I hope you don't mind. We're just going to kind of skip over that, except I will point out the end of the story, Morpheus, or the Lord of Dreams, allows Prez to travel to other universes to fix them the way he fixed his after he died. I'm also going to skip over a brief appearance from The Dark Knight Strikes Again, where we see a President Rickard, who is actually a computer-generated hologram puppeted by Lex Luthor. I don't want to have to explain the whole backstory behind Dark Knight Strikes Again, and the appearance is so minor that it's just not worth mentioning too much beyond this point. However, in between those two books came a Vertigo Visions one-shot, which dealt with Prez, or should I say, someone who might be related to him. This is Prez, Smells Like Teen President.
PJ Rickard takes off on a road trip with his friends/bandmates George and Jason. PJ has grown up with the knowledge that he is the product of a one-night stand his mother had with Prez. Even though Prez was willing to marry PJ's mother, the Secret Service tamped it down because of the controversy. To that end, PJ has been raised in secrecy, especially in the wake of the former president's passing. To make matters worse, PJ's mother was then killed in the 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake. PJ moved in with George shortly thereafter. Though he denied it for a long time, the cover-up affected PJ. He found an outlet in music, but soon found himself more addicted to alcohol. The substance abuse got so bad that PJ broke up with the only girl he ever loved, a woman named Veronica. Then one day at a convenience store, PJ spotted a tabloid claiming that Prez was somehow alive and frequenting a diner in Kansas. So PJ, along with George and Jason, packed things up for Kansas and hopefully a reunion of sorts. Upon arrival, though, they hit a dead end as they can't locate the diner in question. A passerby named Mary informs them that she actually works at the diner in question, and the tabloid covered up the name, possibly to avoid having to pay any informants. She then takes them to where Prez was. Unfortunately, he hasn't been back for weeks. After finding out the trio from San Francisco, Mary puts the guys up in her apartment for the night, where she shows off her collection of serial killer memorabilia, in particular ones that struck the Bay Area. She's been fascinated by San Francisco and serial killers and would love to live there someday. PJ is admittedly a little creeped out and put off by Mary's fascinations, but he sleeps with her anyway. Later, though, he does come to regret that, feeling that he cheated on Veronica. The trio leave Mary behind after promising to take her back to San Francisco with them. From there, it's on to Steadfast and hopefully finding more information. Sadly, all they really find is a museum and a bunch of memorabilia shops. Finally, PJ snaps and throws a brick through a shop window. He's arrested and the cops don't really believe his story, as he's not exactly the first individual to come strolling into Steadfast claiming to be Prez Rickard Jr.
So, what exactly happened with Prez? Well, the Sandman issue states that during his second term in office, he did get briefly engaged to a woman. Unfortunately, she was then killed in an assassination attempt. This is something that drove him further and further into seclusion during his second term. By the way, don't actually try to do the math in all of this. The first Prez comics state that he was elected president in 1976. The Sandman issue states that he served 2 terms as president. The issue we're reading now, the Vertigo Visions one, takes place in 1997 just as Clinton is beginning his second term. So that means either A, Ronald Reagan only served 1 term in office from 84 to 88, or Ronald Reagan served 2 terms in office and George H.W. Bush was never president.
Well, Jason cleans up the mess at the store and relays PJ's story to the owner. The owner points out that Prez himself once got in trouble for vandalism, and passes along the name of a man Prez befriended after his term of office. So the trio are now headed to Wisconsin and a man named Dave Hampson. Hampson is welcoming enough, but he wants to talk to PJ alone. Hampson takes PJ out to an isolated cabin where Prez spent his final days. It seems the youthful candidate was dragged down by his successors undoing every progressive measure he implemented, to the point that it made him violently ill, and eventually he succumbed to a brain tumor. PJ understands the idealism that the people of Prez's generation has slowly been subsumed by the apathy of PJ's generation. PJ wants to make the world better, but he feels like the world won't let him. Hampson finally explains that he doesn't think that PJ is really Prez's kid, as he turns over a stash of peyote. While there were talks of many women sleeping with Prez, that never really happened. People would gather on the White House lawn, hold vigils, but really, that just made Prez more and more reclusive. He never really invited them in. Still, even though he can't be Prez's son, that doesn't mean Prez can't live on through the works of PJ. Distraught, PJ doesn't exactly pay any attention to Hampson's words and swallows the peyote. He's then greeted by a vision of his mother. She explains that she never actually met Prez. She just wanted her son to believe in something greater. In reality, PJ is the offspring of an incestuous drunken rape by his grandfather. PJ then sees Prez, who explains once again that even though the two aren't related, that doesn't mean Prez's legacy still can't go on with PJ. Somehow the drug trip has managed to get through to PJ as he comes down from the high with a new appreciation on life. Later, he writes a letter to Veronica, apologizing for everything. He has also taken the name Henry, seeing that he doesn't feel the best way to carry on Prez's legacy is with a cheesy name. The trio still need to travel around and see what America is truly capable of, but they'll eventually head home soon.
And that concludes our look at Prez, the first teen president. How was it? Well, I do think the artwork is pretty solid throughout most of this. It's not overly goofy, at least in terms of the artwork. Even when it transitions to the more mature Vertigo stuff, I think it's still pretty solidly done. It's really good. It's not great, it's not spectacular, but it's more than serviceable. Also, again, considering the fact this is slated to come out literally 2 months after the insurrection at the Capitol, a lot of these stories are oddly relevant. The fact that 3 of these issues literally involve attacks on the Capitol building probably proves that. Even the more introspective Vertigo stuff, I think, is oddly resonant today. And you know what? At least we don't have a bunch of middle-aged white guys trying to write hip teen dialogue. I mean, if you were to have read things like the Teen Titans issues that DC was putting out this time, you would find a lot of that stuff and just be really cringy. I mean, there's no Steve Buscemi carrying a skateboard. How you going, fellow teens? So at least we have that to go with. Unfortunately, that's really where the compliments end. This series is dull. It's just bad. It's not even laughably bad. Wizard Magazine once referred to this as what it would be like if a 7-year-old was allowed to create a comic book, and I think that might have been a little too complimentary because this is just so bad. Again, I was expecting something goofy and stupid, and it's just dull and cliche to all get out. I mean, the Chinese ambassador is good at ping pong. Eagle Free and his in-tune Earth spirit with the animals. The Russians are obsessed with chess. And it's just, like I said, I know you're trying to be diplomatic and not cater to negative stereotypes, but you're still catering to stereotypes. So it's just kind of a mixed message there. Not to mention, this thing seems so underdeveloped. I mean, I know it was canceled after 4 issues, but why was it so hyped at the end of the first issue that this vice president was going to be a big deal, and it's just some woman named Martha? Why? What does that add? What's the point? Again, why did you hype that up as a big deal and then not follow through on the swing? I mean, it's a woman. That's about it. Again, she's not even like a qualified woman. She's just this goofy comic relief character. It just, it doesn't, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. Not to mention, again, all of the establishment senators are immediately, impeachment, 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 and second something negative happens. Just, again, underdeveloped. And I have to wonder, what exactly was this thing supposed to be? Was it a political satire or comedy? Was it a superhero story, or was it a melodrama? Because it seems to try to be all 3, and it succeeds at none of them. I mean, like I said, this isn't even laughably bad. It's just dull. The ultimate sin in entertainment, being forgettable. That's why I have to give Prez, the first teen president, an F. I will say this, the Vertigo issues do improve things a little bit, but they're really just average Vertigo stories, and they're still pretty cringy at times too. So, again, they're not that great. So yeah, I'm giving it an F. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
help support my channel at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcatproductions. There, you can request a trade to be put in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box. Also, remember, like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.